DC and Warner Brothers are hoping that audiences can take a joke or two. Variety reports that DC is working on a new standalone Joker movie starring Jared Leto. No plot details have been revealed, and we also don't know who might direct, but along with starring, Jared Leto is expected to serve as executive producer. That means he'll have much more creative control than he did with Suicide Squad, which left many of his scenes on the cutting room floor, something that made him very unhappy. Warner Brothers is developing another Suicide Squad spin-off focusing on Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, so she could appear in this new Joker movie and vice versa. To make things confusing, this isn't the only Joker movie on the way. The studio is also making a solo Joker movie that will feature a different version of the character set outside of the current DC movie continuity. Comic readers are used to this sort of thing, but it remains to be seen if general audiences will understand. No word on when either of these two Joker movies will arrive. Well, this gets a little bit convoluted and interesting now, doesn't it? I'm not that excited about a Jared Leto Joker movie, I have to be honest. I don't think he was that amazing in the Suicide Squad movie. I think he is an excellent actor, though, and maybe if he is given sort of free reign and a lot more creative control and they make a better movie, I think that's the big thing there. We might get a more interesting Joker, performance out of this guy. I just think that he was I didn't like that he was tattooed with all of his inner demons, like basically inner dialogue was just tattooed onto his body. That made me cringe when I saw that initial picture, and then it just seems silly the way that it was just all forced and convoluted in the Suicide Squad picture. That was a disaster of a movie, let's be honest. That thing was just terrible, and I think that the further that DC and Warner Brothers get from that initial Suicide Squad movie, the better. It might have made money, and there are fans out there of this thing, and I can't understand that, but I think the further that DC separates itself from that abomination, the better. They certainly hired good actors. They did. They've done a pretty good job with their casting all across the board. They just need to make better movies, And as Solo has just proved, prequels are a very dangerous thing for these big movie studios to get involved with. Now, as for the other Joker movie, this just seems silly. I mean, DC and Warner Brothers, you're struggling to kind of get people to really care about your characters and this cinematic universe that you're crafting. Please just focus on that. Please just make awesome movies that are unequivocally, fun and get lots of people to care and get lots of people interested in this stuff. If you scatter all of your resources, I just reviewed the Gotham TV show, and it's kind of like that, You just don't just throw everything up against the wall to see what sticks. Be a little more focused, a little bit more sort of in control of where all of this stuff is going. Look at what Berlanti is doing with his version of the DC universe. I think that's some pretty impressive television making, and he could be tuned to make some pretty cool movies as well. Not exactly the same, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. As a DC diehard and a fan for my whole life, I am nervous about these decisions. Now, in other comic book movie news, Sony has released the trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and it looks absolutely incredible. This is the CG animated feature film from Sony Animation. I believe it was made right here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Yeah. And it's absolutely killer. All of the visuals are very comic booky and, taking into effect all of the mobility of the character and also the way that comic panels kind of frame up everything with word balloons and stuff. It's absolutely gorgeous. Focusing on Miles Morales, a different hero, but we do see some interactions between Miles and Peter Parker. This is something I'm very excited for. Comes out this December, and I can't wait. This is going to be an awesome and very unique Spider-Man experience. Now, if you want to catch them all, it's not going to be free. Nintendo has confirmed something that most of us already suspected. You'll need to have the Nintendo Switch online subscription service in order to access the online features in the upcoming Pokemon Switch games, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. This includes online battles as well as trading Pokemon with your friends, and makes the new games the first Pokemon titles to lock their online features behind a paywall. Other Switch games like Splatoon 2 will also require a Nintendo Switch online subscription, which will cost $25 a year in Canada. The service goes online this September, and the new Pokemon games land this November. Nintendo is working on a more hardcore Pokemon RPG due on the Switch in late 2019. I think it was only a matter of time. I think here's what's going to happen, right? It's going to be account-based, the way that we access a lot of this interactive entertainment. And so there's going to be a service fee to kind of handle the costs of all of this networking and online sort of store offering that these different companies are going to be providing. But then I think we're going to start to see some pricing kind of adjust for that as well on the core experiences. And sales will happen a lot quicker and with more immediacy, and there will be flash sales and things like that. So the economy of playing video games is going to start to change a little bit as these publishers move away from just fully relying on physical releases out there. So it does make sense that Nintendo's going to be charging for online features and then offering games at different price points. My only hope is that with Nintendo specifically, they attach these purchases that we're going to make with the Switch forever to our new accounts. And I really hope that it isn't like after the Switch is sort of ready to move on to whatever the new hardware is, they're going to wipe all of those purchases off the board, and we're just going to move forward and not have these things that we've applied to our accounts, you know? So fingers crossed on that. But yes, this is the new economy, the digital age. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if all of this leads us to kind of a Netflix all-you-can-eat kind of model for these video game companies within 5 or 10 years. I think we're going to start to see a lot of these huge sweeping changes. We're not going to have all of these discs and cartridges and stuff on except for our older material. You know, we're not going to have new versions of a lot of these games. We're just going to have these accounts that give us tons of access out there. But yep, times are changing as they always do in this industry. One of the most famous games in the world is getting a new spin in virtual reality. Rez and Lumines designer Tetsuya Mizuguchi is working on a trippy new game called Tetris Effect. It reimagines the classic Tetris formula by setting the blocky puzzle-solving game against the backdrop of fantastical 3D worlds and electronic music, both of which will change depending on how you play, which the developers hope will make the experience more immersive, dreamlike, and addictive. I can't wait for this. Tetris Effect is actually named after a real-world phenomenon where players who play Tetris for hours on end will continue to see falling blocks even after they stop playing. It's being made for the PS4 and PlayStation VR headset, making it the first official Tetris game for virtual reality, and it'll drop this fall. This sounds like a match made in heaven. I love Mizuguchi-san. He is incredible. You know, just a fantastic developer. Rez still stands the test of time. If you plop that into your PlayStation VR eyeballs and you play that game, I dare you to not be completely transported, and you're just sort of beaten. You know, you're just along for the ride, and the drum loops and beats and stuff like that just get into your head, and you just have an incredible time. And I believe that is going to be this will be par for the course. Tetris Effect is going to do the exact same thing. I cannot wait for this. So that's congrats to Mizuguchi-san and his development team and the Tetris folks, and to PlayStation. This is a huge announcement, and this is going to be a very cool game to experience on PlayStation VR. I cannot wait. The next big Total War game is also looking pretty awesome, but you're going to have to wait a lot longer for it. Sega and the Creative Assembly have released the first in-engine trailer for Total War 3 Kingdoms, the latest entry in their historical strategy series. It doesn't show off any actual gameplay, but does give fans a better idea of what the final game will be like, and it's looking like a victory. 3 Kingdoms is set in ancient China during the Han Dynasty and will focus on different warlords struggling to conquer the massive country. It's the first game in the main Total War series in more than 3 years, and it isn't a spin-off like the recent Total War Saga and Total War Warhammer games. Now the bad news, the game has been delayed from this fall to spring 2019, which means fans will have to wait a little longer to start playing. I did get a little hands-on time. I don't know if I'm under embargo or not. I have a million embargoes in my brain, but I played a little bit of this. What I can say, because you can see it in the trailer, the game is absolutely gorgeous, and the focus on these different characters is super cool, and they come into play in the context of your game time with the title. I love these Total War games. I don't spend enough time in them, as I discussed yesterday on EP Live, that I don't have tons of time devoted to specifically to PC gaming. I'm hoping that changes soon. I think it's time for me to start figuring out what my next PC game rig is going to be, and I will spend more time playing these awesome Total War games, because every time I do, I am blown away by their quality and their breadth and the scope, and the challenge, you know, the mental stimulation and also the challenge of the gameplay. These are great games, and Creative Assembly is a phenomenal developer. Very excited about this, and I hope that you are excited for this day in everything cool.